It's not fair that President Museveni covers up the facts. He knows very well that the biggest problem with criminal prosecution is the investigative mechanism. CID officers are not able to investigate cases conclusively in a short time. So when you deny people bond and you cannot investigate cases, then what are you telling us? How about people that are innocent? Because according to our laws, a person is innocent until proven guilty. So it's like now President Museveni wants to say that people should be guilty until they prove themselves innocent. So what it is, if President Museveni is serious and true to his word, what he should do first of all, he should fight corruption, because police, in most cases, they know the thieves, they know the culprits, but they work with them. Go and ask, who are your informers, Mr. Museveni? The informers to many of your security organs, actually, they are the lawbreakers, okay? So your people choose to work with the culprits, okay? And they exonerate them even when they know that they are guilty in most cases. So what you need to do, first of all, fight corruption. 2, strengthen the CID office. Facilitate them to do the right thing in the right place. Otherwise, when you simply say no bond, you are going to punish people that are innocent, okay? You cannot say there's no bond when you cannot investigate. You can say no bond if you are sure you'll be able to investigate cases in 48 hours and be able to prosecute. Prosecutors, many times they want to move on, but then they lack information that is credible enough to follow up the cases to a logical conclusion. And many people actually have even been paraded to courts and eventually been released for lack of good incriminating evidence. So President Museveni, the problem is bigger than what you're talking about. The problem is not bond. The problem is corruption, and another problem is a weak institution that is supposed to investigate people to get good evidence that can help to prosecute people conclusively.
Uganda is a member of Commonwealth and operates on common law principles. A tried principle of common law that was entrenched in our 1995 Constitution as amended is the presumption of innocence. It provides that every person suspected to have committed an offense, regardless of the offense, is presumed innocent until proved guilty. There is no distinction as to which offense. Every offense as provided for within our statutes, because an offense must be provided for by law. It cannot be a creature of reason. It can't be a creature of wishful thinking. It must be a creature of statute. So every offense chargeable on any person must be provided for by the law. So the presumption of innocence overrides any other wishful thinking, and it is a tried principle of common law that was entrenched in our constitutional order. Equally, the investigative arm like now and the prosecution arm like the DPP must not be under the direction and control of any person, even if Mr. Museveni or be it any other person must not purport to direct and guide the Director of Public Prosecution. Now, when it comes to implementation of investigation, the presumption of innocence was entrenched in other enabling laws, including the Police Act, that provides that any person suspected to have committed an offense, as long as you don't have ready evidence to charge him before courts of law or to warrant sanctioning charges by the Director of Public Prosecution, an investigative officer and a police officer must release that person suspected on police bond as an investigations continue. You have no right to detain anyone beyond 48 hours. Efforts must be geared towards supporting police and the DPP, empowering them to conduct investigations in a timely manner. But every pronouncement by whatever person, including pronouncements by Mr. Museveni, cannot purport to now erode our constitutional order and cannot purport to override the Constitution. What Mr. Museveni is trying to do is to overlap the constitutional order. He wants to become the law. He wants to start setting the law and enforcing the law, using his speeches, using his letters, and using his illegal directive, end of your speech. It can't. Our laws are enacted through Parliament, and our Constitution was through a Constituent Assembly. If there is an amendment that touches principal and fundamental rights, that such an amendment is subjected to a referenda, where every Ugandan participates and vote or participates in voting and determining what must be provided for within our constitutional order. When it comes to the laws enacted under the Constitution, like now the Police Act, they can only be amended through constitutional means like Parliament. Mr. Museveni cannot sit and now amend the law by directions, and moreover illegal direction. Even if the law was to be set, even if a law was to be passed contradicting the Constitution, equally such a law would be challenged for its unconstitutionality. That's why, in terms of the rhetoric by Mr. Museveni, the end of your rhetoric of Mr. Museveni, it is regrettable. We want to caution Mr. Museveni that is not above the law. Our constitutional order provides that the head of state, the occupant of the head of state, is not above the law. He must also conform to the law. Actually, the law only provides for a temporary immunity for an occupant of the office of the president, but that immunity does not overlap now civil liabilities. Mr. Museveni can be lawfully challenged for anything unconstitutional and anything civil. But the immunity only covers the criminal part of it, but also it's a temporary immunity, and it does not, even the prerogative can only be exercised after a judicial process, after conclusion of a judicial process. He has no rights whatsoever to intervene and to interfere with a continuing judicial or criminal process. Any such intervention is a traverse against our constitutional order. What Mr. Museveni is trying to do is to overlap and override the Constitution and set the law himself, which we challenge, we detest. It is illegal, it's unlawful, and we want to caution every police officer, the OCCIDs, wherever you are, and every police officer in the past, or police officers who are driven into committing illegalities were charged not only here but also at the international level. Some are sanctioned on their own and in their own names. Mr. Museveni is nowhere to bail them out. Don't be dragged into implementing illegal directives and unconstitutional directives. You can't detain anyone beyond 48 hours. If you have evidence against anyone, charge them in courts of law so that they benefit from other rights like bail. But if you have no evidence and someone is telling you don't release this and this on bail, there is no distinction on cases. Every case qualifies for a police bond, because a case at investigative level does not qualify to be a case. Where do you get now the discretion? Where do you get all that wisdom now to know that much as we are still investigating, this is so much of a serious case? Because choosing a suspect has no realistic terms, has no realistic procedure. It's a question of saying someone is suspected, people reporting, people making alarm, someone is detained, and you say because they are suspecting someone to have committed this and this offense, so because by denying a bond, Mr. Museveni is trying to allude to a situation where now a police officer is almost a judge to assess that, oh, this one should not be released. You are not a judge. Your discretion is all about gathering evidence, and once evidence can't be gathered in 48 hours, you must release such a person on bond, because it's the legal position, it's the constitutional position. And if anyone is attempted to implement these legal directives, we shall deal with you legally, because you can challenge actions of any individual, and even neither is Mr. Museveni immune for anything unconstitutional. So we can challenge Mr. Museveni and any officer in their own names. But also it's worth noting that equally the whole world is watching. No officer will go untouched. No officer will hide under impunity if you deny people bond. So the direction and the rhetoric by Mr. Museveni must be disregarded as just wishful thinking, but not a direction and not a directive, because the law is very clear and the law has not been amended.
To understand, a bond does not exonerate, or it doesn't set any culprit free. You are still under custody of police, you are still a prisoner, you are still a suspect. So a bond facilitates police to find more good information about the case at play. But it also helps the police to understand what they are doing, because you are not free yet. You are still under investigation, and you can be put in bars anytime, or you can be taken to court as soon as your file is complete. So I don't see a bond as somebody who has been set free or somebody who has been exonerated. No, you are still a prisoner. So the president to come and give such directives to a suspect, I don't think it is fair. We would be given a chance as Parliament to discuss it further. Probably he will understand that when I give somebody bond, I have not set him free, but he is still my suspect, he is still under investigation, we are still carrying forward with the investigation, and in that process we can find more useful information about the case. If somebody is free, every information comes naturally without manipulation. So I would not support President giving such orders to police. You are in one way or the other slowing the work of police into investigating such kind of matters. And the President should also use the other arms of government to help him for consultation. As Parliament, we are here, we are the voice of the people. We would be given a chance also to debate it. Yes, so that we understand the real reason why people should be given bond. Many people are in prison without any case. So if you close that small gap where police can release somebody for further investigation, I'm telling you, police cells are going to fill up, even in prison. We shall have quite, a very big number of prisoners who are innocent. Right. So let us give police a chance. Let them do that work. Let us just teach them what to do. That when you give somebody bond, doesn't mean investigation has stopped. It doesn't mean this man has been exonerated. But please continue with the investigation. When you find out the truth, process the file, and when he comes back to report, he's taken to court.
I want to agree with the President. I've just returned from the constituency. While in the constituency, I had the barazas before Christmas. I had about 3 Paris barazas to discuss with the community, especially the beneficiaries of PDM. And one of the issues in the community is these petty thefts. It's very rampant and they are really menace. And I would say it is good that the perpetrator should be tried. The challenge is now with the present directives is going to also contradict some of the laws that require that people should have access to bond. In my view, what we need to do is to improve our judiciary system. One of the reasons that we cannot have speedy trial for this criminal is because of the backlogs. We don't have enough staff, we don't have investigating officers, they are not well facilitated to do the investigation in time, so that the files of such people can be sanctioned to court and be tried. My view is we need to address all that chain. From the police, they should be equipped, they should be supported to do the investigations in time, and then we also need to support the judiciary to have all the magistrates courts functional, and then we should equip them with the staffing so that they can try this for speed. So for me, that would be the most important thing. But if they do some on the caucus, in my view, that this matter should be discussed. Indeed, it is important we address the issue of the petty crimes, petty thefts. It is very common in the villages especially. But again, we need to improve our judicial system to be able to handle the cases at the speed that is required. So in my view, that should be one of the discussions of the caucus, so that we come with the position. So that when we go to the community and we should be able to speak the same voice, whether to support the present position or to modify his directive and say we can best implement it. The other thing we could do is to have these people do community service. They can be sentenced to do community services so that it becomes easier to handle the cases. So for me, this should be a discussion at the level of caucus. Thank you.
I'm thinking that the cases which the president has imposed the no bond sanction is not worth it because we have people who have been committing more crimes, like people who kill others, who abduct others, people who rape and do other things. Those are the people, and people who steal millions of money, who loot government treasuries. Those are the people who should not be given bail. But the people who are stealing 10,000, 1,000 from Wananchi, I think the president should be fair, and we should be in a position to give other punitive measures rather than denying bond. It's more harsh and more punishing the Wananchi. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Entirely in agreement with the president to restrict police bonds, specifically on any individual involved in animal thefts or anything related to that. Because honestly, when you go to the villages, there's a lot of fear. Most farmers have lost their animals to thieves well known to them in the villages. So it's more or less like police is protecting cartels of animal thieves. So I believe if we restrict police bonds given to these thieves or purported thieves in these villages, it will take us to a level of resolving the issue of animal theft. That's why at some point, I think in 2022, had brought a private member's bill, or had requested the Speaker to give us space to bring a private member's bill, or to be supported to bring a private member's bill, with the intention of having every animal registered with an identification tag, an RFID, so that we can trace the origin of any animal, be it a goat, be it pigs or anything. As long as they have the tag, we can identify them, we can trace them back to the farm where they came from. Meaning that if you had to slaughter any animal in your butchery, it implies that there must be a document right from the farmer to whom that number or identification number is registered. If, let's say, Asimu's farm is registered as, let's say, the Antonde, which is LA or something, that means I must have given, the person who took my cow must have my authorization letter, must have the local council authorization letter, must have the area leader's authorization letter, and the permit actually to slaughter that cow or animal, or to transport it, or do anything they want. But at this point, it is very hard. All animals at times they look alike. It's very easy for me to get to a police roadblock in Masakanda. I tell them, well, I got this cow from so and so, and it's very hard for the police officer at that point to say it's true he got it from this. But if we have identification tags that can trace these animals to the last person, to the last farmer, I believe also it's another way of dealing with the problem of animal thefts. So, but I really, for now, believe that the president's decision to use his powers to limit police bonds to the purported thieves, I think it's might equally work for us. Now that leaves the courts or the court system to make sure that they make it easier to the farmer to prove that so and so stole my cow, so and so did this, and I believe that will solve so many of our problems.
Okay, maybe Honorable
President who took an oath to keep the welfare of all Ugandans. So if he has a suggestion, and since he's the commander-in-chief of all the land forces, he foresees, if he brings this, and it's a sellable suggestion, we can even go around and do amendments in the Constitution, because it's also a constitutional mandate that dictates specific time where someone is supposed to be detained at the police. So the president, as the CEO, as the initiator of all this program, if he has that thought, we would definitely say he has a point, because people have been taking it for granted. They steal billions of money. They are detained at police 1 or 3 days. They go away. What does that insinuate? That the rest will do the same, because they know the law cannot touch them. So if the president brings this conversation, especially to us in the NRM, we shall have a talk about it, and also look at the merits and the demerits. If the biggest majority accepts, then we can still look at the Constitution. Wow, and how is it legally binding to the citizens of this country?
Previously, the president was proposing the